Hi, in this video we are going to talk about your Read-Aloud experience assignment. So everything I'm going to show you in this recording you can find in the Read-Aloud experience folder. I'm in the assignment space in Blackboard. If you click on the folder, you can find the instructions, the template that you'll be using to write your reflections that go along with this assignment, the rubric that shows you how those reflections are going to be graded, and I also have an assignment link so you can upload your work right here. All right, so let's begin by looking at the instructions. So with this assignment, what you're going to be doing is making 4 visits to 2 separate classrooms. So if you are a teacher assistant currently, you can make your own arrangements for the classrooms that you'll be visiting for this assignment. So you can talk to teachers that you already know and work with in your grade level or in a different grade level in your school. If you are not currently a teacher assistant, please let me know as soon as possible, and what we'll do is give you information about how you can sign up to visit some local kindergarten classrooms, or it might be first grade, but most likely it's going to be kindergarten. So with this assignment, again, you're visiting 2 different classrooms. On your first visit to each classroom, like you see in the table here, you're just going to go in and you're going to make some observations about the classroom environment, okay? On your second visit, you are going to actually get a chance to work with an individual child or a small group of children, and you will get a chance to implement your Read-Aloud lesson plan that you wrote earlier in the semester. So it's important to keep in mind, you can do your first classroom visits as early in the semester as you want, as soon as you have your arrangements made for a classroom to go observe. However, you may not do your second visit and you may not implement your Read-Aloud lesson plan until you have received your grade and feedback from me. So if your lesson plan needs some improvement, I want you to be able to improve that lesson plan before you actually implement it with children. So please make sure that you don't do your second visit until after you have submitted that lesson plan in October and received feedback from me. So again, 2 classrooms, you're visiting 2 different times. The first visit is an observation. The second visit, you're doing your Read-Aloud lesson plan within those classrooms. So after you visit each classroom, you're going to write a 3-paragraph reflection about the experience. So the reflections aren't just, loosey-goosey, whatever comes to mind. The reflections are going to be very structured. So there is a template, and again, the template's in Blackboard, that I want you to use for writing your reflections. So this is what the template looks like. So each classroom visit has a heading, like classroom number 1, first visit. So you fill this in with the date, whatever date you went to go visit the classroom. You type in the name of the teacher, whose classroom it was that you went to go visit, and then you write in your school name and the grade level in which you observed. So you're going to write your reflection for each classroom visit using this template. I strongly recommend that you write your reflections immediately following each classroom visit and not wait till the end of the semester when this assignment is due, because if you wait till the end of the semester, you're going to forget some things, and that won't really be good. So please make sure that you just stay on top of this, and every time you do an observation or every time you implement your Read-Aloud lesson plan, you just go do this reflection right away. Okay? So with your observation visits, your first visits, you are going to write 3 paragraphs. In your first paragraph, you're going to describe the lesson. You're going to write about what the teacher was teaching when you went to the classroom. You're going to write about what materials you saw the teacher use, like was the teacher using a textbook or was the teacher using a children's book. And then I want you to think about which of the 6 language arts, like reading, writing, speaking, listening, viewing, or visually representing, were included in the lesson you observed. And I forgot to mention this earlier, but when you visit the classrooms, you should be trying to visit during a language arts block, not like a math block, because this is a language arts class. So you also need to write a paragraph about the classroom environment. Like, what was that environment like? In what ways was it set up to promote literacy learning? For example, were the kids, were their desks arranged one by one so they didn't have a chance to turn and talk to people? Or did they sit in small groups so they could collaborate with other students? So you need to describe that classroom environment. You also need to look for whether or not the classroom includes a library, or you need to look for things like posters and displays of student work. Like, I really want you to think about that classroom environment and what that classroom environment might do to promote the learning of student literacy. So you need to do some analysis there. So if you realize, gosh, this classroom has no classroom library, what might the implications of that be for the students in that classroom? So I want you to think about what those things mean. Do a little analysis. And then finally, in your last paragraph for your observation visits, I want you to recognize or think about any patterns of practice that we have studied in class that you saw in the classroom, like did you see a literature focus unit happening, or did you happen to observe writing workshop? And then I want you to also think about if the teacher in the classroom is doing anything that reminded you of something that we have studied in CIR 306. So both of your observation reflections for your first classroom visits are going to follow that structure. And if you go down in the template, classroom number 2 first visit is structured exactly the same way as classroom number 1's first visit. So what you can do is you can delete this blue text here in your reflection, and you can delete these bullet points once you've typed out your reflection, because I don't need to see the bullet points, but they're there to help guide you as you write your reflection. So as you write your reflections, you need to make sure that you're answering all the questions that are being asked on this template, because otherwise you're going to lose points, okay? So that's what you're writing about for your first visit. On your second visit to the classroom, same thing, date, teacher name, school name, and grade. In your first paragraph, you're going to describe the experience. How many kids did you read to? What were they like? How old were they? What grade were they in? Did the children you read to seem to like the book? What makes you think so? Also talk about any literacy behaviors that the students exhibited. For example, did they willingly make predictions about the book? Did they ask questions about the book as you read? Did they make any comments about the book? That kind of information needs to go in your first paragraph as you describe your experience. In your second paragraph, you need to talk about comprehension. Think about, did the child or the children that you read your lesson plan to, or did your lesson plan with, did they comprehend the book that you read aloud to them? And how do you know that? So you want to talk about that retelling checklist and the results of that. So if you are reading aloud to a small group of children, you need to give that, you do the retelling checklist with all of the students that you are reading aloud to. So for some of you, you might need to bring multiple copies of that retelling checklist when you make your second visit to these classrooms. And you also need to think about what the child did well with the retelling and what the child didn't do so well. And again, I want you to do some analysis here. Like, what are the instructional implications if a child doesn't remember, the main characters of the book, that you read aloud to the child? So think about what that means. What might you do to help that child get better at that? And then finally, in your last paragraph, I want a personal reflection. I want you to describe how you think your lesson plan went, why you think so, has your comfort level changed, and why. I find, from past experience doing this in my class, that a lot of people go into this feeling really nervous about reading aloud to a child, especially by following a lesson plan. But they end up feeling pretty good about it by the time they have that experience. So I want you to think about how your attitude or comfort level has changed. I want you to tell me what you learned and how this is going to impact your future teaching. And I want you to think about what you might do differently if you were to do this again. Okay, so you're writing 3 paragraphs for each of your 4 classroom visits. So something, just a tip that might be helpful, when you go on your second classroom visits, again, you're going to be implementing that read aloud lesson plan that you wrote earlier in the semester. Instead of having a copy of your lesson plan next to you with questions written on it, what you might do instead is just put your questions on a sticky note and put them on the pages of the book where you intend to ask the questions. So if you have a question on page 3, like what is the name of the main character, you could write that on a sticky note and put it right on page 3. So you don't have to keep looking back at your lesson plan. All right, that'll just make your life a whole lot easier. So something to keep in mind. So once you've made your 4 classroom visits, you are able to upload your reflections on this template to Blackboard, and the link is in the assignment folder. It's right here. So in terms of how you're being graded on this assignment, so I'm only going to look at the exemplary column because I'm hoping that everyone is shooting to get the highest grade possible on this assignment. So you need to write a total of 12 paragraphs to get the highest score. So 3 paragraphs about each of your 4 classroom visits. And a paragraph, needs to answer all of the questions that, those questions that are listed on the assignment template, but generally a paragraph is at least 4 sentences long. So your reflections need to be well organized and they need to be understandable. I don't want to read your reflections and go, huh, what are they talking about? I want to understand exactly what it is you're saying, so you need to be well organized. I would strongly suggest that, see this template, that you keep these headings in bold and you use these, with each paragraph. So in the paragraph in which you're describing the lesson, keep this paragraph heading here. That'll help make sure that your writing is organized. It'll also help you maximize the points you earn on this assignment. So please make sure you use those bold paragraph headings. You need to consistently respond to all of the questions on the assignment template. This isn't, I only want to answer the second question here. You have to answer all 3 of the questions here, okay? And that goes for each paragraph of every reflection. Got to answer all of them. Your reflections need to be detailed and descriptive. You need to show me that you were actually there in these classrooms observing and working with these children. So I am looking for a lot of detail. I need to know that you were actually there and you were participating. So, and finally, I'm looking for you to include some analysis. I'm looking for you to go beyond describing what you see and describing what happened during the lesson plan, but I want you to analyze, what does that mean? What are the implications of this? Okay? So I want you to think about that and go beyond simply describing. So that is the Read Aloud Experience assignment, and that is due at the very end of the semester. Other than the final exam, that's the last thing that you have due. So if you have any questions about this, please feel free to let me know. Thank you.